Thanks, Jessica. And I am so happy to be here tonight. We at Shutterfly are big Adobe fans, and I personally am a big Adobe fan simply because I used to run a company called Borrow Lenses where everyone was a photographer. So it hits home and very near and dear to my heart. So I come here to talk to you about the power of personalization today. So it feels like it's a buzzword that every company needs to know. Every company is trying to do it. And, to be honest, I don't think a lot of companies are really doing it well. And a lot of companies are getting it right. And mostly because you don't really want to end up on the front page of New York Times when you do it wrong. So here's a couple kind of frameworks of how you think about it, how you test, how you scale. And with that, I leave you tonight with kind of how we do it at Shutterfly and kind of best practices there. So rather than telling you who I am, here's kind of exercise number one. This is a knowledge graph. This is exactly kind of how people start building models. Again, let's start. I've been at Shutterfly 11 years, at JP Morgan 2.5 years, where I helped take the company public. And I've had multiple startups along the way. I have 1,823 Facebook friends, all of which I know really dearly because I know their birthdays. I have 86 posts on Instagram and 0 Twitter tweets. The number 2 most visited site on my browser is Redfin. You might think, why is she on Redfin? Is she ready to buy a house? No, guys. I've been ready to buy a house since 2012. I spent a lot of time trolling deal sites because I refuse to pay retail. I research everything on Amazon ad nauseum, and I probably cross-reference fake spots to make sure there's no fake reviews. I have a ton of Berkeley friends and HBS friends, so you can infer I probably went to school there. And I can't stay up to finish a movie anymore past 9 p.m. This one's a little harder. What can you tell about me? I have a new life status. I am a needy, whiny human being. And 5 years ago, if you guessed that was my boss, you probably would have been right. But about 16 months ago, I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. And this is kind of one of my new identities now. I'm a new mom. So brands, they'll pick up on this. And if they don't, they should, right? That you don't need to be expressly told that someone's a new mom or that someone's been at their career for a long time or that somebody went to school here. A lot of personalization and a lot of customization is actually through inference. And so think about it this way. 59% of shoppers who've experienced personalization believe it has a noticeable influence in their purchasing behavior. Good for the customer. Customers want it. It's also good for business. So personalization can reduce acquisition costs by as much as 50%. Imagine cutting that marketing budget by half, lifting revenues by 5 to 15%, and increasing the efficiency of marketing spend by 10 to 30%. McKinsey. There's really no good reason why companies shouldn't be investing in this now. We live in a different world, and why use one blowhorn to talk to everybody? There's no two people that are unique, and so there really should be no two messages that you're talking to without actually knowing the customer really, really well. So why is scalable personalization so important? Well, time is money. And the more time you take of a customer, the more money you actually owe them. So the next time you're on hold with an airline company or a pharmacy company or repeating your phone number for the 10th time, tell them that they owe you money. You want to reduce complexity through relevant curation to avoid the dreaded paradox of choice. Do you ever wonder that there's Tinder, there's Bumble, there's Match.com? So there's millions of people that you can actually choose from if you're single and looking. But do you find it odd or ironic that when ABC goes out, identifies a bachelor or bachelorette, and then curates 30 people for them, 30 qualified, handsome gentlemen or beautiful ladies, everyone seems to find true love. Don't you find that ironic? The third is kind of better, deeper relationships builds more trust and fosters relationship with your customers. I think this is a universal truth at this point. I don't think getting to know somebody better, I don't think understanding their wants, their ambitions, their life goals, things that make them tick, that never really hurts. And kind of with all the distractions in life, people's attention span and wallet are actually really expensive to gather now. I think the golden rule. One of our CEO, Chris North, had actually kind of honed this into me. He goes, Kristie, the moment, customer acquisition costs, as long as it's less than lifetime value of a customer, I would spend that all day long. I would go find money to spend for you. And so with that said, getting people to come back and repeat, because as customer acquisition costs get higher and higher, is super, super important. And one thing is making sure you personalize to what exactly they want, when they want, what they want, is really the only way you're going to be able to hit that customer. And lastly, the only time you're settling for generic is when you're at the pharmacy. Everyone wants to be unique. Everyone wants to feel special. So what do these brands have in common? Okay. They've built their entire business knowing exactly who you are and what your preferences are. And they find a way to magically create compelling personalized experiences. They read your mind before you even know you want something. And so, as I said in the beginning, how do you get started? Like a lot of businesses, as I said, don't do this really well. And a lot of businesses really kind of tiptoe into this simply because, again, you don't want to feel creepy. You don't want to feel like someone's invading your privacy. So here's how you get started. You really define who you're targeting, segmentation, really define who you're building experience for, and really hone in on that. What are you saying to them? What you say is super, super important because, again, every single person has differences in kind of the way they look at the world. Use templates, use dynamic content, use variables. Define what is really your end message. When and where. The delivery of these messages is especially important. Imagine when someone says, I love you, and you say, thank you. That's really, really a great message. But the when and the where, that's really also what is super key in identifying. And why are you saying it? Like, give them a reason to listen to you. And lastly, how you integrate kind of into your data and to your measured results is super important. Why? Because you want to be able to operationalize the data. You want to be able to provide that user the feedback loop, right? So if you miss the boat, that's okay. You don't want to miss the boat the second, the third, the fourth time. Customers have a very short attention span, and most of them aren't super forgiving. So at the end of the day, iterate a little bit at a time until you've reached that right recipe. And then after that, you think about how you're building your product. This is exactly how, I would start, and this is how Shutterfly kind of starts some of our really, really tough problems that we're solving. We start with a hypothesis. We say, this is the problem we're trying to solve. And typically there's probably hundreds of problems that we ask ourselves every day. So the second thing I think about is how do I size the opportunity? If I solve this problem A, is it going to deliver $3 million of revenue? Or is it going to deliver a couple dollars of revenue? That's probably not even worth our conversation. We end up doing rapid prototyping, MVPs. We did one for Apple last year. We did a couple for some of our photo gift projects. We do really, really quick testing MVPs. We put it in front of customers. We use usertesting.com. We really, find a way to make sure that we have product market fit. And then when we finally get enough of conviction that we're on the right direction, we operationalize and then we measure and test the crap out of it. Iterating, I can't emphasize the importance of iteration. You likely won't get it right the first time. We won't pick the right photo for you. We won't pick the right background for you. We won't pick your right holiday card. But you know what? After we learn more and more data points through knowledge graphs and building algorithms, we'll eventually get it right. So lastly, this is kind of where you end up scaling. Figure out after you have that secret recipe, that secret sauce, you give enough, somebody out there gives you enough conviction that this is going to work, and then you scale the product. So this is probably kind of something that you all have seen. There's so many different ways you think about personalization. There's data, there's scoring, there's machine learning, the customization. These are a dime a dozen. But how do we do it at Shutterfly? So in the framework of what you guys do at work or the data sets that you have access to, we access a very broad set of photos. We learn from every single person who comes to our site. We pre-make suggestions using algorithms. We know that your favorite color is pink. We know that every photo book you make starts with a travel destination. We know that which photos are most meaningful to you. We know which people are most important in your lives because their pictures keep on appearing in your photos. We personalize communication and triggers. So we do notifications on your mobile phone. We send you rediscovery emails. We send you email pushes. We send you products that we've made for you. And we build products that drive growth and virality. So for every single holiday card purchase that you buy, you're sending it to hundreds of people. And those hundreds of people look at it. They come to Shutterfly. They send, they find their Christmas card on Shutterfly and they send it to hundreds of people. And lastly, we build really strong feedback loops that are constantly refining our algorithms, both through implicit and expressed behaviors. So it's not, most customers aren't going to sit there and take a 20-page survey for you. You need to figure out what behaviors that they're taking, both on their site, on your site, or through their browsing history or whatever that might be, and constantly take those inputs into your algorithms. Here's a good example. I'm just going to talk you through how we kind of do some of our photos. So here is where customers tell us, this is a favorite. This is a favorite photo. And in other cases, we actually identify some of their favorite photos. Why? Because we know that these two little kids are super important in a mom's life. So some of your other favorite photos might include them as well. Then we go there, and if you look for the bottom, we have sections where it's just made exactly for you. We look at what products you've purchased before. We look at what designs you gravitate towards. We look at what season it is. Then we go there and we rank photos. We say, this one's blurry. This one, people aren't facing forward. This one, really doesn't show people's faces. This one's cropped imperfectly. This one's too dark. This one's too light. This one's too saturated. And then we start learning from their photos over and over again. And then we start ranking them. We say, this one's a good photo. This one's a bad photo. This is what we should up. This one works well for a mug. This one works well for a canvas print. This one's really, really crappy. So we would never recommend it on anything. And then we make products just for you. So this is actually a photo of my little girl and our family. And if you think about it, if you look at right there, right here, we allow you to provide feedback to us. And even if you don't click that feedback, we know when you edit it and when you add it to your cart, we know the changes that you're making, just so that the next time we serve you something up, more relevant, more personalized to what you want. And even after you've added something to cart, then we go, what else can we do with this person's photos? This is ironically actually powered by Adobe Test and Target, Adobe Target. So we use Adobe to help us understand, what do people really, really want? What inputs can we send Adobe so they can give us really, really strong recommendations? After that, we figure out, what do people have in their cart? What do they gravitate towards? And so here, I end up spending an extra $27.50 for a case that I probably never intended to buy. And lastly, here's some parting thoughts. At Shutterfly, we really try to get to know that customer. We spend every waking moment thinking about, what do they want next? What products are they interested in? What signals have they given us to know what would they resonate with in the future? Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but 5 years from now, what are they going to be looking for? Second command is be maniacal about their stated and implied needs. We really look at this on a daily basis. I think, one of the things that we realize is that most of our customers, they don't come to us on a daily basis, and we look for engagement points to make sure that whatever their needs are, that they're met. So we launch things like Free Book a Month, where every single month we're sending you a free book of all your photos. Third commandment is know that they change over time. So 16 months ago, I was looking for bottles and diapers, and now I'm actually not looking at diapers anymore. I'm looking at things to potty train my daughter. So behaviors change over time, needs change over time. So companies shouldn't be static. You got to figure out how to adapt to your customers. And fourth, serve them well. Be maniacal about serving them well, and they will serve you well. So with that, I bid you all adieu, and I'm happy to take any questions.
That water bottle with your baby in her hands. That was such a good one. I mean, that was like, I'm like, the next one. Yeah, the water bottle. Oh my, is that possible? That is so cute.
You can buy any of these products. These are all in production, so you can buy any of these products. But if you think about, like as you said, like these are products where I came to Shutterfly to make one item, but all these products, I literally could just add these to my cart. There's no work on your end. Yeah.
You mentioned using Adobe Target in the sense of maybe doing this more algorithmically or at larger scale with these data points. Is it possible? Is it even approachable as a task to try to accomplish any kind of personalization before you have the app instrumented in that way? I mean, is that even feasible?
I think you can. I think the problem with that is like you don't get that many chances with customers. And so until you know something about them, a data point about them, um, and you figure, you may do it if you have a large set of data from somewhere else where you're like, there's a 99% chance that this customer fits into that data set, then yeah, you may not need to have built all the instrumentation and all the product. But until then, we're a product-driven culture, we're a data-driven culture, so we really want to make sure that there's a lot of reputational risk when we get something wrong. We really want to make sure that at the end of the day, we're giving you, we have our kind of philosophy is we have one chance to impress you. So if we are launching stuff that, especially to a broad swath of people, that just isn't impressive, we typically won't put that out. I would say wait, and I would say